Welcome into the Mental Moments podcast with your guide, Healing Hottie. Mental Moments is where we walk through life experiences, yours and mine, finding the ingredients to make life sweeter, a conversation to consider our minds, bodies, and soul, moving with gratitude one step at a time. It is such a beautiful thing to live in the moments we prayed for. Once we arrive at what felt like that once so distant destination, it's important that we remain encouraged and sustained. Today, I'm sharing what has helped me continue to appreciate and maintain in this life I'm so very proud of. Let's walk through this together.
Welcome in. Welcome in. How are we feeling today? I'm super excited because it's a beautiful day here in North Carolina, and I hope that you're having a great day. And let me know if you're not in the comments. Like, this is a conversation. Mental Moments is a conversation, honey. And today we are talking about how, no matter what, we continue to live a sustained, whole, and complete life, right? I've talked throughout these past 2 seasons a lot about the things that help keep me well, keep me, keep me all the things. As I've entered in a new age, I'm 32 now, oh my gosh, what is keeping me at the best me? What is keeping Mental Moments podcast going, right? Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. 2021, I set out to build a life that I would be proud of. It was one that I was praying would have a level of peace that was unshaken. It was one where I wanted to be wealthy in every way, not just financially, but truly wealthy. And I wanted to encourage others. Like, I wanted to be an embodiment of what I was encouraging others to do. I didn't want to be living a hypocritical life. Now, I was still living in Maryland, and I was experiencing a lot of health issues. Fun fact, Healing Hottie is very allergic to oak. Extremely allergic to oak. I think there's like a red wine that has some oak in it. Whatever that one is, I don't know the wine, y'all. But whichever one that is, it's not a good time. I was very sick. I was in the marriage that I've mentioned throughout the past 2 seasons where it's just gotten to a place where there were concerns about my well-being. This was toward the tail end of the pandemic. And so we had to FaceTime, most people, but my mom and sister were calling me every day because I just was not well. And it was bleak. It was very dark. It was very sad time. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was miserable at my job, all those things. And having all of those things to now set out to do things in a different way, it just felt like a huge undertaking that I was not super sure, which is wild to say now, but I wasn't sure that was worth it because it was going to be another bout of labor. It was going to be another space of doing difficult things that I couldn't really account for. I didn't know what the difficult things that were coming my way and what they would be and what that would look like, but I knew this difficult. So could I keep going in that? And one of the things I want to pause there and encourage you in is sometimes we find ourselves in difficult spaces, unhealthy spaces, in toxic spaces, in life or death spaces. And it feels hard, but you're like, I don't know if I got any more difficult things in me. I don't know if I have the capacity for any more challenges, right? And that was a real question that I had to reconsider, and I had to ask myself, I don't know what's coming, but could I do this one more day? Could I wake up tomorrow and do a Groundhog Day of this every single day? And the answer was no, because at that time, my life looked very much the same every day. It was very rare that I had a variable that would enter the situation that would shake it up and make it exciting. It was very mundane. It was very depressing. It was just cold. It was very cold. And at this time, I had purchased a house in Maryland, and it was a townhouse. And it was just all this empty space. And one of the things that was like a big rift is that, in that relationship, he would not let me spend money to decorate. And I worked. He worked, I worked. But he would not let me spend money to decorate. So just imagine is these levels, all this space was just bare bones, white walls, kept the blinds closed often. It was bleak. It was really bleak. Now, the other part is that I had a support system then that was like, yeah, girl, you gotta go, you gotta move, you gotta shake. And so from 2021 all the way up until 2026, literally I left Maryland at the end of April in 2021. Wow, that's crazy. I'm just in awe for a moment. But I left and came back to North Carolina, and I was living with my sister for some time, and I was like, yeah, this is temporary. And that's the other thing, that when you set out to do things in a new way, there are certain things, there are certain levels and things of difficulty that you need to do in order to be sustained, but let them remain temporary. Because I knew that wasn't my landing spot. And so there were a few like odd ends and jobs. I talked about the restaurant job earlier on this season that I picked up to just help me get by. But I just sat in, that's not the end. The other thing that I did is not lean on my own understanding. And at first, the ways that I did that is I leaned very heavily on the people in my life and the support system that I had to kind of measure and gauge whether or not I was on the right path. But that's the wrong thing to do. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that right now. At that point I was in therapy, but even in that, like my therapist couldn't make the decisions for me. My therapist is not living in this every day. And that's something that we often get caught up in, is that we forget to take value in our support system, but we'll like stop trusting ourselves in that. We will take value in our support system, but if they are not in agreement, you completely just like are at a loss or won't make a move or won't do anything. While it helped me in the beginning to kind of get my confidence up, because I knew that was an area that I was struggling in. The whole thing about confidence is that this has to be a core tenet within yourself first, right? And it has to be still a core tenet, even when people don't necessarily agree or believe that that is the correct way. And then the third thing for me was developing that relationship with God, because I also understood I don't have all the answers. Humans don't have all the answers. They can only see what they can see. They can only account for what they know to be real and true and the tangibles, right? And I will say there were people in my life that helped strengthen my relationship in God, for sure. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. But I had to have the relationship for myself, because there were just some things that I just did not understand, and I did not have enough evidence of where I could say, I'm like, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Or that doesn't, I'm not seeing that, but okay, I'm going to see this through anyway. It really got me out of that, or shook me up in that space where I'd gotten so accustomed to, I have to have all the pieces and the elements and parts of the plan in order to understand and do what I'm supposed to do. I understood very quickly and early on, and got convicted on very early on, is that if we knew the whole plan, we probably would not agree with it. We probably would abandon it, and we would not see it through. We just would not. It would be a situation where we're like, not even if you say so. That don't make sense to me. And so that was a struggle. That was a big part of the difficulty, is that sometimes we can add to that those layers of difficulty, because this thing is so new, right? So willing to do it different, developing that confidence, developing the relationship with God, so that way we're not leaning on our own understanding. And then it was like, okay, but what are the tangible things that I need to be well? What are my needs? Because for a long time, I was positioned through life to either seek to do things in such a selfless way that I'm depleted. And then I have to reclaim my power, and I have to start to do things in a very bitter and selfish way in order to have something and be the bad guy, which neither of those are the correct answer. And so what does that look like? The other thing is that I really had to understand that wealth exists outside of the financial space. And now that's like, girl, duh. But the other part that I will say in this relationship, that financial control was like a huge driver and factor. They were just very toxic in that sense. And so my relationship with money was very warped. My relationship and how to manage money was very disjointed. And now I had to like, okay, but outside of money, what does wealth really look like? What does a sustained version, no matter where I am, I'm covered, looks like? And that absolutely started with my relationship with God. It absolutely looked like, okay, how am I showing up in the relationships? How are the people I'm in relationship with showing up for me? It absolutely looked like serving and volunteering. It absolutely looked like unshakable peace. It looked like not wrapping myself so much up in where I am financially all the time versus like, what is it that I'm doing every day that pours into a bank, right? And I don't just mean like a financial institution. Like I'm like my love bank, my soul bank, my mental bank. What does it look like to be sustained on every single level in my life, and how am I pouring into that daily? Another part of that is you have to allow time for the things that you pray for, that you have faith for, that you hope for to come into place. One of like the major aspects of like this whole healing journey from about 2013 to 2024, I moved a lot. Like I moved, like I physically moved addresses a lot. There would be things that happened and all kinds of stories that I could tell of why I had to move, but I moved. And I remember in those moments where I would just like complain to God. I'm like, God, where is my life where I can have and I can hold? Like, where can I just like sit and have a minute to be still and have a home? Like, where is my home? Because none of these places were home. And so it wasn't until 2024 that, and I still wasn't at my home, but it wasn't until 2024 up until November of 2025 for that whole time span. And even before that, like in 2023, I wasn't traveling at all. I wasn't going anywhere. I was just like in my city because I couldn't afford to travel. And one of the things that helps me feel wealthy in every way is to be able to learn other experiences and experience the world, and from a perspective of being a learner, and from a perspective of like, oh, this is not my everyday life. This is totally something new and different than what I'm used to. And so there was that aspect of it. There was also this aspect of like, okay, now I'm sitting, I'm locked in. What am I appreciative of my life, even though I don't have this sense of home yet? The other thing is that home is not a place. It has to be something, a level of being in existence and present, and grateful for that ability to be present and still, no matter where you are. It looks like the connections that you have, the family that you're able to just like call on and have memories of, and all those things. It's all of those things is what makes me feel at home. Now I'm not traveling. I don't have this sense of home, and I'm being sat in this place. And now I had to come to the space of understanding, not only one, that I will achieve this space of home, but I also have to be grateful for where I am now, because November of 2025 was vastly different from April of 2021, was vastly different from summer of 2013. It was just different. And all of these things, like if you look back from season 1 until now, my life looks very different. Even this is the physical evidence of that my life looks very different. So you have to allow for things to play out. You have to allow for the seeds that you plant to sprout. You do. It has to happen in that way, because if you don't, you're in a constant space. You're in search of and you're desperate for things that might already be here, right? Once I allowed myself to kind of slow down and like breathe in, home is a space of being, and do what does home look like within myself. So that way, when I build my physical home again, it's just a reflection of that, right? It's got to start within first before you can build that outwardly. You got to be grateful for where you are before you continue to seek out other things. The difficult that you are in now in the pursuit of better absolutely looks totally different from the difficult that you will experience versus the difficult that you have now. Because the difficult that you are experiencing, you may not be able to survive in. But when you are sustained, you can survive in the difficult things that come. My life looks different every day. I can plan as much as I can, but my life is very dynamic because I involve myself with so many things, and I'm active in my community, and I'm literally in love with life. Like I love the fact that I get to wake up every morning and do life no matter what comes. And that's such a beautiful thing to recognize, that I want to rest in. Appreciate your growth. Appreciate your growth. You don't have to obsess over it. You don't have to mull over it. You don't have to make it an idol, but appreciate it, because I could not have built this podcast. I could not have allowed myself to be prepared and prepare myself, because I don't do it all. For all that my life has become and what it's becoming, had I not done that. It's crazy to think that the place where I'm recording, I used to volunteer at for the past 2 years. I didn't know that anything would come of that. And now I'm so enmeshed within the space and the team and the community that I've been blessed to be given a position here. And so it's a beautiful space to be in, to live a life that is sustained. But I will continue to say, I could not have built my life like this if I tried on my own, and I tried. And I'm so grateful for God and all of the beautiful things that he surrounds me with that allows me to live. Really, truly, I say that. Like you're looking at a woman who, when she was born, her heart rate dropped, and a year old, she was diagnosed with asthma and spent many times back and forth and airlifted to hospitals because of it. Severe allergies, difficulty and strife and trauma and all of those things. And I sit before you today, talking to you today with so much gratitude for it all, in a way that I could not sum up into a single sentence. So I truly encourage you, allow yourself to zoom out, that you allow yourself to really start to build and fill your path, your toolkit, fill your mind, reestablish beliefs that allow you to build a life you will be proud of. And this was the final episode of season 2, guys. This new season has been so different, so blessed. So it's challenged me in so many ways. And I cannot thank my editor enough. I cannot do greater enough for so graciously allowing me to use their space for this podcast. I am so grateful to God for continuing to press on me every day for a year about creating content. And so I'm happy to be here. Well, we will be back in a few weeks with season 3 of Mental Moments podcast. So stay tuned.
Remember, this is a conversation, so make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Mental Moments and Healing Hottie so we can keep this conversation going. I pray what took me 12 steps takes you 3. Keep building a life you will be proud of, no matter how long it takes. Until next time.